Hi everyone, welcome back to Radio Night Crime. Before you drift off, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. If you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's relax and jump into tonight's case. Story 1. On a sultry evening on May 27, 2016, in Haryana, India, a wealthy and powerful family was shaken by the sudden death of Yogesh Batra, a successful businessman in the plywood industry. The death was declared a heart attack, but the unusual behavior of his wife, Priyanka, after the incident, along with puzzling details from the scene, raised suspicions. Priyanka, born and raised in a small town in Haryana, has always been known as a woman with outstanding beauty and charisma. Ever since she was a child, she has been different from her peers. With her smooth skin, bright smile, and sharp eyes, Priyanka has always been the center of attention. Her middle-class parents have always been proud of their daughter, believing that with her intelligence and outstanding appearance, Priyanka will achieve great success in life. Priyanka's youth was associated with cultural activities, where she often stood on stage, confidently performed, and captivated the audience. The peak of those years was when she won the title of Beauty Queen at a local beauty pageant, surpassing dozens of contestants to step onto the podium of glory. This title not only brought recognition but also marked the beginning of greater ambitions in her heart. After completing high school, Priyanka decided to leave her hometown to pursue her dreams in a big city. She chose to study business at a prestigious university, partly because of her passion for learning, partly because she believed that this environment would open up many opportunities for her to approach the upper class. During her studies, Priyanka not only stood out in terms of achievements but also quickly built a wide network of relationships thanks to her skillful communication skills and inherent confidence. After graduating, Priyanka started working in the event organization industry, where she quickly proved her ability. With a delicate aesthetic eye and good management skills, she participated in organizing many large events, from luxury parties to corporate conferences. Every project that Priyanka participated in was highly appreciated, helping her career quickly gain a reputation in the industry. However, for Priyanka, a successful career is only part of her life goals. Since she was young, she has harbored ambitions of a lavish life where she can own expensive items, attend high-class parties, and approach influential figures. She has always believed that her beauty and intelligence are important tools to achieve that. However, her great ambition also makes her a pragmatist, always looking for opportunities to advance and not hesitating to take advantage of her in every situation. Priyanka first met Yogesh Batra on a warm evening at a lavish party where prominent faces of Haryana gathered. The party, organized by a mutual friend, was a place where people of status in society gathered. Priyanka, with her gorgeous appearance in a bright red dress and confident demeanor, immediately became the center of attention of the night. She talked gracefully, smiled attractively, and many eyes were directed towards her. In the noisy crowd, Yogesh Batra could not help but notice Priyanka. Yogesh, born into a wealthy business family with a famous plywood manufacturing business, was a gentleman with a mature demeanor. With his perfectly tailored suit and calm yet engaging way of speaking, it's not difficult for him to make people around him feel respected. However, in Priyanka's eyes, Yogesh was not only a successful man, but also exuded the charm of someone who knew what he wanted and was capable of achieving it. The two were quickly introduced to each other through a mutual friend. During the conversation, Priyanka used her intelligence and sense of humor to captivate Yogesh. She shared about her career as an event planner, the challenges she faced in the industry, and how she overcame them with determination. Yogesh, who was used to boring small talk at parties, was impressed by Priyanka not only for her looks but also for her sharp and ambitious ideas. From that first meeting, Yogesh couldn't stop thinking about Priyanka. He tried to contact her through mutual friends, and from there they started dating. Priyanka, though she didn't say it, was excited when Yogesh expressed his interest. For her, Yogesh is not just a gentleman but also a gateway to the high life she has always dreamed of. With each meeting, their relationship becomes deeper. Yogesh admires Priyanka's confidence and talent, while she is attracted to his thoughtfulness and the way he plans for the future. While Priyanka has always maintained a strong and independent image, she cannot deny that Yogesh's family's wealth and status were an important factor in her wanting to take the relationship further. After a year of dating, Yogesh decided to propose to Priyanka in a romantic setting at a luxury resort. The proposal, with a sparkling diamond ring, was a milestone in their relationship. Priyanka, despite knowing her inner calculations, could not hide her happiness at being the center of a relationship that was blessed by all her friends and family. Their wedding took place in 2008, a grand event that no one in Haryana's elite could miss. The ceremony was held in a luxurious villa, with hundreds of guests, ranging from business figures to artists and local officials. Priyanka looked like a princess in a bejeweled wedding gown, while Yogesh looked elegant beside her in a traditional sherwani. From the lavish banquet tables to the elaborate entertainment program, every detail of the wedding was carefully prepared, not only expressing the love of the couple, but also affirming the status of both families. After getting married, Priyanka Patel officially entered the life she had dreamed of, a world full of luxury, admiration from those around her, and no financial worries. Living in a luxurious villa, attending high-class parties, and enjoying lavish trips with her husband, Priyanka seemed to have achieved everything a woman could wish for. However, that flashy appearance could not hide the dissatisfaction that gradually formed in her heart. As someone who was used to being independent, Priyanka felt constrained by being limited to the role of a housewife. Even though she was surrounded by modern conveniences, she still felt that her life lacked meaning and freedom. Her days became a boring routine, taking care of the children, organizing family gatherings, and playing the role of the perfect wife in the eyes of outsiders. Despite loving her two children, a boy and a girl, Priyanka could not deny the feeling that she was being forced into a mold that she did not want. Yogesh, meanwhile, was a conservative and controlling husband. As the heir to a large family business, he had high expectations for his wife to maintain a standard image of a woman in society. He discouraged Priyanka from participating in personal activities outside the family, wanting her to focus entirely on taking care of the children and supporting him in her role as a wife. Whenever Priyanka expressed her desire to work or pursue personal interests, Yogesh dismissed her, saying that she did not need to work when he was taking care of everything. Tensions began to build between them, but both tried to hide it from everyone. Priyanka, despite her displeasure, maintained the appearance of an ideal wife at social events. However, in 2015, things began to change when Priyanka joined a high-end gym in the city. There she met Rohit Kumar, a young and charismatic fitness trainer. Rohit, with his rugged looks, confident smile, and easygoing manner, quickly caught Priyanka's attention. With him, she felt the freedom and vitality she had lost during the years of living under Yogesh's control. Initially, their relationship was limited to personal training, but soon their workout sessions turned into more intimate conversations. Rohit often complimented Priyanka, saying that she was not only beautiful but also strong and worthy of living the way she wanted. These words seemed to touch the depths of Priyanka's desire for freedom, making her unable to resist his charm. The relationship between Priyanka and Rohit quickly became more intimate than usual. They started meeting outside the gym, going out for dinner, and even having secret meetings at hotels. Priyanka, who had always tried to maintain a perfect image, now felt like she had found a part of herself that had been lost. Rohit, despite knowing about Priyanka's marital status, continued the relationship for his own benefit and also because he was fascinated by her lavish lifestyle. In early 2016, everything came crashing down when Yogesh discovered the affair between Priyanka and Rohit. While accidentally checking his wife's phone, he found intimate messages between the two. Yogesh's anger reached its peak, and he confronted Priyanka, threatening to divorce her and cut off all her financial rights. For Priyanka, this was not just a threat but an unacceptable prospect. She had become too accustomed to a life of luxury and was not ready to give it up. Cornered, Priyanka and Rohit start planning to eliminate Yogesh. The two believed that with his death, Priyanka would inherit the entire family fortune, including the business Yogesh was running. They believed that this plan would not only allow them to continue their relationship, but also ensure a life free of financial worries. The plan was laid out in detail, with Priyanka acting as the informant and Rohit carrying out the action. On the night of May 27, 2016, the luxurious Batra family mansion in Haryana was silent. That was when Priyanka Patel, along with her lover Rohit Kumar and two accomplices Shyam Sundar, aka Sonu and Satish Kumar, decided to carry out the dark plan that had been detailed for weeks. The atmosphere was gloomy, but Priyanka showed no signs of anxiety or remorse. For her, this was the only way to secure the lavish lifestyle and relationship she had chosen. Around 11 p.m., Priyanka quietly walked downstairs and left the back door open, just as she had planned with Rohit. She made a final check, making sure that all the security cameras in the house had been disabled in advance, something she had done quietly during the day to avoid leaving any evidence. Rohit, along with Sonu and Satish, sneaked into the house without any resistance. In the darkness, the three men kept absolutely silent as they moved through the vast hallway, where expensive paintings and ornaments created a lavish atmosphere, adding to the chill of the night. Yogesh Batra was fast asleep on the large bed in the master bedroom on the second floor. His steady breathing echoed in the silence, unaware that death was near. Priyanka entered the room, her eyes cold and determined. She gestured for Rohit and his two accomplices to come closer. They had brought a syringe filled with a powerful sedative, planning to inject it into Yogesh to render him unconscious and die quietly. Rohit, syringe in hand, approached the bed. But as soon as the needle touched Yogesh's skin, he suddenly woke up. In the dim light from the night lamp, Yogesh's eyes widened, confused and panicked. "Priyanka, what's going on?" he exclaimed, struggling to sit up. Without thinking, Rohit lunged forward and pinned Yogesh down on the bed, trying to hold him still while Sonu and Satish joined in, pinning his arms and legs. Yogesh struggled violently, fighting back with all his might. In the struggle, the needle broke, preventing the sedative from being injected into his body as originally intended. The situation turned chaotic. The group began to panic as Yogesh resisted more and more. Priyanka, standing in the corner of the room, initially seemed hesitant, but then she stepped forward with a determined look in her eyes. "There is no other way," she said coldly. Priyanka grabbed the pillow from the bedside table and handed it to Rohit. With the help of Sonu and Satish, they pressed the pillow down on Yogesh's face, suffocating him as he struggled desperately. The noise in the room gradually faded, and finally Yogesh's body became motionless. The room fell silent, save for the heavy breathing of those who had just committed an unforgivable crime. Priyanka, now an accomplice in her husband's murder, quickly moved on to the next stage of her plan. She repaired the crime scene, erasing any traces that might arouse suspicion. She then called her family herself and pretended to be in a panic, informing them that Yogesh had died suddenly in his sleep, possibly of a heart attack. Yogesh's family, who trusted Priyanka, rushed to the villa. When they arrived, Priyanka was visibly distraught, crying in front of everyone. They had no doubt about her story, especially since Priyanka had always portrayed herself as a perfect wife to her in-laws. Meanwhile, Rohit, Sonu, and Satish quickly left the scene as planned, taking personal belongings with them to avoid detection. Priyanka maintained her cover, coordinating with the family in organizing the funeral and post-mortem procedures for Yogesh. However, things did not go as smoothly as Priyanka had hoped. The doctors who conducted the initial autopsy found suspicious signs on Yogesh's body. Pressure on his face and neck, as well as bruises on his body, made them suspect that this was not a natural death. These marks, though carefully concealed, became the key to unlocking the horrifying truth behind them. In the following days, the police began to investigate further. They questioned Yogesh's family members and close associates, while Priyanka tried to remain calm so as not to arouse further suspicion. But gradually, holes in her story began to emerge and evidence collected at the scene led to growing suspicions. After Yogesh Batra's sudden death, his family, especially Sunita Batra, could not accept this truth easily. In her eyes, her son was a healthy person, showing no signs of any serious illness that could have led to such a sudden death. She repeatedly told her relatives that every night, she dreamed of Yogesh standing before her, his face sad and repeatedly asking for help. These dreams, combined with the mother's premonition, prompted her to unravel the truth. In the weeks following the funeral, the Batra family began to notice unusual behavior from Priyanka. Instead of grieving as one might expect from a wife who had just lost her husband, she appeared calm and even cold at times. She quickly resumed her daily activities and seemed unaffected by the great loss. The change in Priyanka's behavior made Sunita even more suspicious. Determined to find answers, Yogesh's parents hired a private detective agency to thoroughly investigate their son's death. The detectives started with the smallest clues, including Priyanka's call history, personal relationships, and unusual things in her life after Yogesh's death. One of the first and most important discoveries came from Priyanka's call records. Detectives found that on the night Yogesh died, Priyanka exchanged as many as 40 calls with Rohit Kumar. These calls started before the murder and continued till the early hours of the next morning. Moreover, the messages recovered from Priyanka's phone showed that she had been in close contact with Rohit for months before that. Beyond the call logs, the detectives also discovered a shady relationship between Priyanka and Rohit. The two often met outside, not just at the gym but also at posh restaurants and private places. A shocking detail was that Priyanka gifted Rohit a luxury car worth 36 lakh rupees just weeks after her husband's death. This raised big questions about Rohit's motive and real role in Yogesh's death. In addition, the detectives found a fake SIM card used for communication between Priyanka, Rohit, and two accomplices Shyam Sundar Sonu and Satish Kumar. This SIM card matched the data from the calls that took place on the night of the murder. The police confirmed that the SIM was purchased under someone else's name in order to conceal the true identity of the masterminds. With clear evidence, the detective passed the entire information to the police. Based on these findings, the police decided to reopen the case and focus on Priyanka and others involved. On March 21, 2017, the police arrested Rohit Kumar at his rented apartment. Upon arrest, Rohit tried to deny all charges, claiming that he had nothing to do with Yogesh's death. However, under pressure from the incontrovertible evidence and constant questioning from the investigators, Rohit finally confessed to the entire plan. In his statement, Rohit revealed that Priyanka was the one who planned the murder in detail. She had convinced him that killing Yogesh was the only way for them to be together without any hindrance. According to Rohit, Priyanka had provided all the necessary information about Yogesh's habits and schedule, and was responsible for preparing the crime scene to stage a natural death. Rohit also claimed that Priyanka had hired two others, Shyam Sundar Sonu and Satish Kumar, to assist him in carrying out the murder. She had paid them a large sum of money, promising to pay more after the plan was completed. Based on Rohit's statement, the police quickly arrested Priyanka along with her two accomplices Sonu and Satish. Upon arrest, Priyanka remained calm and claimed that she was completely innocent. However, the evidence gathered was overwhelming. Sonu and Satish, when questioned, also confessed to their role in the crime. They described in detail how they had sneaked into Batra's house on the night of the murder, how they had coordinated with Rohit and Priyanka to execute the plan, and how they were instructed to clean up their tracks after the murder was completed. The statements of all three, along with physical evidence such as call logs, fake SIMs, and recovered messages, forced Priyanka to face the truth. On August 6, 2021, the trial of Priyanka Patel, Rohit Kumar, Shyam Sundar, and Satish Kumar took place in a Haryana court, attracting significant public attention. Hundreds of local residents and media gathered outside the court to await the verdict in the case that has caused a stir. At the trial, the jury and lawyers presented in detail the irrefutable evidence of the crimes of the four defendants, including confessions from Rohit and two accomplices, along with data from the phone calls and evidence at the scene. Priyanka, dressed in a simple sari, entered the courtroom with a cold demeanor. No longer the image of the perfect wife, she was now identified as the ruthless mastermind. Rohit and his two accomplices stood by, heads bowed, as the prosecutor detailed the entire murder plot from planning to execution. The testimony described Priyanka as not only the one who conceived the plan but also played an active role in covering up the crime, which shocked the courtroom. In sentencing, The judge emphasized that the actions of Priyanka and her accomplices were cold-blooded, premeditated, and unforgivable. The court found them guilty of murder under Section 302 of the Indian Penal Code, as well as Sections 506 and 120 billion, which deal with intimidation and attempt to murder. Priyanka and her co-accused were sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole or parole. As the verdict was read, murmurs filled the courtroom. Priyanka remained unrepentant, while Rohit and his two co-accused bowed their heads in silence. The case was closed, but its echoes lingered in the hearts of Yogesh Butra's family and the local community. The Butra family, though heartbroken, felt that justice had been served. It was also a stark reminder of the consequences of greed and betrayal in family relationships. Story 2. This video was captured on a security camera at a Walmart in 2013, where a woman, her 3 daughters, and a strange man appeared. At first glance, they seemed to be having a good time shopping, but soon the incident turned into a tragedy that shocked the American public. That man was Donald James Smith, a man who had been arrested 20 times for child abuse charges. At first, he pretended to be a good person, helping the woman's oldest daughter try on shoes. But in reality, he was plotting a brutal plan. A moment later, the security camera recorded him and the oldest girl walking out of the supermarket. The two walked together to the parking lot outside and quickly moved to a dark street. At that time, in the supermarket, the mother and the 2 remaining girls were still shopping. This woman probably did not know that she would never be able to see her oldest daughter again. On the evening of June 21, 2013, at a Walmart in Jacksonville, Florida, a woman named Rain Periwinkle took her 3 daughters shopping. They were accompanied by Donald James Smith, a stranger Rain had just met. Initially, he appeared to be a kind person by offering to help Rain's family with their shopping. Donald even convinced Rain that his wife would be there to help pay the bill. Trusting this, Rain let him join her family on their shopping trip. In the supermarket, security cameras captured Donald with 3 young girls. He initially helped Rain's oldest daughter, Cherish Periwinkle, try on a pair of shoes, trying to warm up to her and gain her trust. While Rain was busy shopping with her 2 younger daughters, Destiny and Nevaeh, Cherish frequently followed Donald to other areas of the store. The cameras captured him leading Cherish to the children's clothing section, where the 2 disappeared from view for a suspicious amount of time. Over an hour passed. Donald continued to feign concern as he watched the girls while Rain continued to shop. At around 10:38 p.m., security cameras captured Donald and Cherish standing alone in the shoe section, talking. Cherish then returned to say something to her mother and quickly returned to Donald. Taking advantage of Rain's lack of vigilance, Donald offered to take Cherish to the McDonald's in the supermarket to buy a hamburger. Rain, unsuspecting, agreed. By 11:01 p.m., Rain finally realized Cherish was missing and began searching the supermarket for her. When she found no trace of her daughter or Donald, she immediately called the police at 11:16 p.m., reporting her daughter missing. I met a man today at Dollar General, and he saw that I was struggling to buy them some clothes. He drove us here to buy us some clothes, and the only reason I went with him because he said his wife was going to be here. I told him I don't take rides with strangers. Okay, ma'am, what's your daughter's name? Her name's Cherish. After explaining, she mentioned that her 2 other daughters, Destiny and Nevaeh, were still with her, and she continued providing additional details. I never went close to the Rain because I'm panicking right now. I'm trying not to panic. Okay, and she was last seen with this man? Yes. He said he was going to McDonald's, and he hasn't been there because the store is closed right now. Okay, is he a white man or a black man? A white man. He's got white, short hair, and he's got dark eyebrows. She continued sharing even more concerning details. I had a strange feeling about him when I first met him. He took her to the dressing room twice, and I was hoping that she would be okay. And I was looking at the shoes, and I didn't want him to think that I was overly protective, freaking out, but now they're not here. She started to tell the story from the beginning, but the woman's behavior throughout the investigation was noticed by an inspector that Rain's attitude was not appropriate for the current situation. And it did not seem like she was worried about her daughter, even though she always insisted that it was the strange man who kidnapped Sherry's. He said his name is Dawn. He said he was supposed to meet his wife, and his wife never showed up, and we've been here probably 2 hours, and she didn't show up, and I have this cart full of clothes that he said he was going to pay for with a $100 gift card, and I had a bad feeling. I thought, well, I feel like pinching myself because this is too good to be true, so I got to the checkout. He's not here. Sherry's isn't here. Sherry's is 8 years old. She's supposed to go to California in the morning. Who's to blame? And he knows, as I told him this, he knew when the store was closing. He had a bad feeling about him. Through the actions of the mother named Rain when she came to take her statement, the inspectors suspected that this woman did not shed any tears when she showed that she was very sad. She was very calm and did not show any panic when her daughter just went missing. Rain kept talking about her worries about the items she bought at Dollar General, which she left in the stroller in the suspect's car. Rain showed a rather calm attitude when she thought that her daughter might have been murdered, and these things were said with a rather cold attitude. I don't want him to kill her. I don't want to be one of those parents who's going through this. Rain Periwinkle's apparent separation of emotions and words wasn't the only thing that raised suspicions among investigators. During her testimony, Rain had said that Cherish planned to board a plane the next morning to visit her father in California for the summer. This testimony, along with details of Cherish's travel itinerary, was given in a strange manner by Rain. She seemed more upset than concerned about her daughter's disappearance. Rain's discomfort with the trip left one of the investigators wondering, was this a setup to intentionally make her miss the flight? Although Rain firmly denied this, her demeanor throughout the investigation left investigators unable to rule out the possibility that Rain might know more than she shared. The question now arose, was Rain deliberately trying to hide something related to the kidnapping? The unusual way she responded, from her lack of extreme anxiety to her focus on unimportant details, raised suspicions. Investigators wondered if Rain was covering up something related to Donald James Smith, or if she had some other motive that she was not willing to reveal. However, there was no direct evidence that Rain was involved in the case. But her behavior and attitude continued to raise questions, forcing investigators to consider every possibility in an increasingly tense investigation. Police immediately began investigating after receiving a missing person call from Rain Periwinkle at around 11:16 p.m. They accessed the security camera system of the Walmart where Rain and her children had shopped. The images from the camera clearly showed Cherish Periwinkle leaving the store with an unknown man, identified as Donald James Smith. She did not return. The two walked toward the parking lot, where Donald's white van was parked. The store's exterior cameras continued to record Cherish and Donald walking toward the van together. Donald opened the door, let Cherish in, then quickly got in and drove away. The security footage showed the white van leaving the parking lot, disappearing into the night. This was the first evidence that reinforced the suspicion that this man was directly involved in Cherish's disappearance. When police ran Donald James Smith's criminal record through a criminal database, they discovered that he was a dangerous criminal with a lengthy criminal record spanning over 30 years. Donald had been arrested 20 times for a variety of crimes related to children, including kidnapping, indecent exposure, assault on a minor, and possession of illegal materials. Notably, just 21 days before the incident, he had been released from prison after posing as a child welfare worker to lure a girl away from her grandmother. His reoffending immediately raised police concerns about Cherish's safety. With the urgency heightened, police decided to issue an Amber Alert across the state of Florida. Photos of Cherish Periwinkle, a detailed description of Donald James Smith, and his white van were widely circulated in the media. Police asked the public to come forward with any information that might help them in their investigation. Shortly thereafter, they received a tip from a resident who lived near Rutgers Road, about 3 miles from Walmart, who said he had seen Donald James Smith at his home. Notably, there was a blue cart in the backyard that matched Rain Periwinkle's description of the cart Donald had used at the supermarket. Police immediately went to the scene, but the house was completely empty. There was no sign of Donald or Cherish. Undeterred, police continued to expand their search based on new clues. Near the creek behind Highlands Church, they found a bag containing Cherish's personal items, including a pink headband and flip-flops. The discovery reinforced fears that the girl was in danger, and that every second counted. At about 4:21 a.m., nearly 5 hours after Cherish went missing. Another resident reported seeing a white van hidden in some bushes near Highlands Church. However, when police arrived, the van was gone. However, its previous presence in the area helped them focus their investigation around the church. At about 8:55 a.m., another call came in from a resident reporting seeing a white van traveling on a road near the highway. Immediately, the police deployed a pursuit team with the coordination of ground and air forces. The patrol team also quickly blocked the exits to stop the car, but with the faint hope that Cherish Periwinkle might still be alive. 791, you'll do it on this bridge right here, that way you can't run on foot. After determining that all exits were blocked, the police quickly deployed a siege plan. Patrols, supported by air units, worked together to ensure that the suspect had no chance of escape. As Donald James Smith's white van approached the Blair at their final stop on the highway, the police immediately turned on their hazard lights, signaling him to stop. The sound of sirens blared, shattering the tense silence. 90 miles southbound at 4th Street, Texas. I want a felony. Take time to do a felony, thank you. John, step out of the vehicle, face away from us. Keep your hands in the air. Stop. Take 2 steps to the left. Face away from us. Take 10 steps to the left. Put your hands in the air, walk backwards. Just talk to my voice slowly. Stop. Take 2 more steps to the left. Begin to walk backwards again. Stop. Go down to your left knee. Put your hands on top of your head. Remain still. I'll call it. Any other occupants in the vehicle? Next occupant of the vehicle. Take your hands and stick them outside the vehicle window and door. Officers wait with bated breath, hoping to see Cherish emerge. Any other occupants of the vehicle? Identify yourself now. K-9 unit will be approaching. After the suspect was taken into custody, police quickly approached the white van, hoping to find Cherish Periwinkle inside. Carefully opening the doors and inspecting every corner, they were met with a crushing reality: the van was completely empty. There was no sign of Cherish. The grim discovery heightened the urgency of the search as officers scrambled to uncover her whereabouts before it was too late. They swiftly transported the suspect to the station for interrogation. After Donald James Smith was arrested, police immediately took him to the station for questioning. However, during questioning, Donald repeatedly lied and refused to cooperate. He claimed that Cherish had jumped out of the car near a traffic light and fled, but was unable to provide any specific details. Donald's lack of cooperation made the investigation more difficult, forcing detectives to focus on clues found at the scene. Donald's white van was thoroughly searched by police. They found suspicious evidence, including Cherish's personal items, such as purple flip-flops and a pink headband. Additionally, the dumpsters behind Highlands Church, where the van had been hidden, contained shopping bags from Dollar General items that Rain Periwinkle claimed belonged to his family. All indications were that Donald had stopped in the area before moving on, but with suspicions that Cherish might be near the Highlands Church, police immediately deployed sniffer dogs to search the area. The tracks led them deeper into a forest path near the stream behind the church. After hours of searching, they discovered a white shopping bag with a wet black sock inside, believed to be Cherish's. These discoveries made the inspectors even more worried about the girl's current condition. Continuing deeper into the forest area, the police discovered a heartbreaking and horrifying scene. Cherish Periwinkle, only 8 years old, was found naked from the waist down, her body partially submerged in a puddle of mud. She was trapped under a fallen tree, showing no signs of life. The heartbreaking scene left everyone present shocked and outraged. The autopsy later showed that Cherish had been brutally humiliated and beaten before being strangled to death. The DNA sample collected from her body matched Donald James Smith, proving that he was the perpetrator of this horrific crime. The fact that Donald had been released from prison only 21 days ago further outraged public opinion, raising big questions about the justice system and crime management in Florida. With the incontrovertible evidence gathered, Donald was sent back to prison, where he continued to refuse to cooperate with the police. However, what happened next in prison provided important information. Donald had no idea that an undercover police officer was posing as an inmate to get close to him. In conversations with fellow inmates, Donald bragged about his disgusting behavior, revealing his terrifying perversion and lack of remorse. "You would have fun with that one. You would keep that one locked up in the basement for a while. If I saw her at the bus stop, I'd ing get her. Yeah, I'd like to run into her and walk her. Cherish got some good on her? Yeah. Damn, boy. She ain't acting like that, though. That's because she ain't black. She had a lot for a white girl." Recordings of conversations between Donald James Smith and his cellmate, who was actually an undercover police officer, became powerful evidence against him. In these recordings, Donald not only bragged about his crimes, but also revealed his cruel and psychologically deviant nature. He described young girls as his favorite objects, using sick language to talk about his perverted interests and behavior. These words painted a clear portrait of a criminal with no conscience or awareness of the consequences of his actions. After collecting the recordings, the police continued to strengthen the case file to bring Donald to justice. Evidence against him included a DNA sample taken from Cherish Periwinkle's body, which matched Donald's, as well as Cherish's personal items found at the scene where her body was discovered. Among them were a pink headband, flip-flops, and a shopping bag left near the stream. All were irrefutable evidence that Donald had direct contact with Cherish before her death. The autopsy revealed more harrowing details. Cherish had been the victim of a serious assault before she was murdered. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation. Her injuries and DNA evidence matched witness testimony and evidence from the scene. Despite this, Donald stubbornly denied any wrongdoing. During questioning and in court, he repeatedly made baseless claims that he had been framed and that evidence had been tampered with. He also claimed that the prison recording violated his privacy and should not be used as evidence. However, these claims were quickly dismissed when the prosecutor presented a full case file showing that all evidence had been obtained legally. Meanwhile, Rain Periwinkle, Cherish's mother, has also become a focus of the investigation and public opinion. Her actions and statements during the investigation have left many people, including the inspectors, confused and suspicious. Rain's cold and seemingly emotionless attitude when her daughter went missing has sparked a wave of criticism from the public. However, the police confirmed that there is no evidence that Rain was directly involved in Cherish's death, although her actions could be considered irresponsible. The trial of Donald James Smith began in March 2018. The prosecution was well prepared, using every piece of evidence available to convict Donald. Prison recordings, in which Donald bragged about his crimes, were played before the jury. In the recordings, Donald described his behavior in lurid detail and expressed a sickening enjoyment. He also admitted his attraction to young girls, which further reinforced his image as a dangerous predator. Witnesses, including residents who discovered Donald's car and traces related to the case, also testified. In particular, investigators recreated the scene and the sequence of events leading up to Cherish's death to present to the court. The images and information released made the atmosphere in the courtroom heavy, causing many people to cry. Donald remained stoic and unrepentant throughout the trial. He insisted that the evidence against him was invalid and even tried to argue that the prison recordings were a violation of his privacy. However, his defense was quickly dismissed. After a lengthy and tense trial, the jury reached its verdict after just 19 minutes of deliberation. Donald James Smith was found guilty of 3 felony counts: child abduction, indecent assault, and first-degree murder. The verdict was the death penalty. Donald will be held at the Union Correctional Institution in Rayford, Florida, while he awaits his execution. The case ended with a conclusion that was considered fair, but the pain of Cherish Periwinkle's family and followers remains. Cherish's death also sparked a wave of controversy about the legal system for allowing a dangerous criminal like Donald to be released just weeks before he committed the crime. Rain's 2 remaining daughters, Nevaeh and Destiny, were sent to live with their father shortly after Cherish's death. Rain continued to face criticism from the public, many of whom believed that her negligence had given Donald the opportunity to commit the crime. However, Rain has denied any responsibility, claiming that she is just another victim in this heartbreaking tragedy. Cherish Periwinkle's story remains a poignant reminder of the need to protect children from predators and raises big questions about how society deals with dangerous criminals. Story 3. On February 23, 2018, in the town of Patnagar, Odisha, India, a horrific incident shook the entire country. A family was enjoying the happy days after the wedding of their only son when tragedy struck in the form of a seemingly harmless gift package. The sudden explosion not only destroyed the house but also took the lives of 2 loved ones, leaving behind pain and confusion throughout the residential area. The mysteries surrounding the gift package and the motive behind it have opened a shocking investigation. Sumia Sekar Sahu, the only son in a middle-class family in Odisha, is known to be intelligent, hardworking, and always eager to overcome all limits to achieve success. Born and raised in a small village in Nayaga district, Sumia had a simple but ambitious childhood. His parents, hardworking farmers, were always supportive and made sacrifices to ensure their son received the best education. From a young age, Sumia showed an aptitude for technology and mathematics. While in high school, he regularly won prizes in district and state-level mathematics competitions. These achievements led his teachers and friends to call him the mathematical genius of the village. With the support of his parents and his own determination, Sumia got into a prestigious engineering college in Odisha, where he began to discover his true passion for information technology. During his college years, Sumia not only excelled in his studies but also actively participated in research projects and programming competitions. He won a full scholarship in his second year due to his outstanding performance, which eased the financial burden on his family. After graduating with honors, Sumia received a job offer from a leading software company in Bangalore, one of India's leading technology hubs. In Bangalore, Sumia's life changed completely. He entered the world of technology with great passion, constantly learning to improve his skills and achieving important milestones in his career. As a talented software engineer, he quickly rose through the ranks of the company and became the pride of his family. However, despite living far away from home, Sumia still maintains a close relationship with his parents. He regularly sends money to support them and calls them every day to update them on their situation. Before getting married, Sumia was an ambitious and responsible young man, always trying to balance his career and family obligations. His tireless efforts not only helped improve his parents' lives, but also laid the foundation for bigger dreams in the future. However, in 2017, Sumia entered a new chapter in his future when he met Rima Rani Saho. Rima was born and raised in a middle-class family in a small town in the state of Odisha. As the youngest of 3 siblings, Rima was protected and loved from a young age. Her parents are kind people who run small businesses and always try to give their children a stable life. Rima stands out for her gentle, polite personality and hardworking spirit, which makes her always loved by teachers and friends. Since her high school years, Rima has shown her intelligence and creativity in art and literature. She often participates in writing and painting competitions and has won many awards at school and local levels. After graduating from high school, Rima chose to study economics at a local university in the hope of being able to support her parents in the family business. During her college years, she maintained good academic performance and worked part-time to cover some of her living expenses and lessen the burden on her parents. Rima is an introvert who enjoys simple pleasures like reading, writing diaries, and spending time with her family. Although her life is not very comfortable, she is always optimistic and appreciates what she has. Friends often describe Rima as a quiet but thoughtful person who always knows how to listen and understand others. The fateful meeting between Rima and Sumia happened in 2017 at a gathering organized by a mutual friend in Bhubaneswar. Sumia, with her confident yet approachable demeanor, was immediately attracted to Rima's gentleness and delicate beauty. Meanwhile, Rima was also impressed by the story of Sumia's efforts and success in her career. The two chatted all evening, sharing with each other about life, family, and future ambitions. That first meeting opened a new chapter for both of them. Sumia took the initiative to contact Rima after the meeting and started chatting with her regularly. He tried to create opportunities for the two to meet so that they could have more time to understand each other. Rima, although a bit shy at first, gradually felt the sincerity in Sumia's feelings. Hours of texting, phone calls, and walks together lit the fire of love between the two. Their relationship progressed quickly but remained strong. In the eyes of everyone, Sumia and Rima became an ideal couple. He was a successful, intelligent man, and she was a gentle, thoughtful woman. Their love was not only about emotional harmony but also about the perfect complement to their differences, helping both of them become better versions of themselves. After a year of dating, Sumia Sekar and Rima Rani got married on February 18, 2018, officially becoming husband and wife in a grand ceremony held in Patnagar, a small but vibrant town on that day. Their wedding was not only a family event but also the center of attention of the whole area. Guests came in large numbers, including friends, relatives, and acquaintances from near and far. Everyone wanted to witness the happy moment of the couple considered ideal: Sumia, a successful software engineer, and Rima, a gentle and thoughtful wife. The wedding hall was brilliant with sparkling lights in traditional colors. Cheerful celebratory music resounded throughout the ceremony, mingling with the laughter of the guests. Sumia, dressed in traditional Indian attire, looked confident and proud, smiling brightly as she stood next to Rima, her newlywed wife, who was wearing a bright red sari and delicately made up. All eyes were on them, and no one could deny that they looked happy. The ceremony was held in accordance with traditional customs, with sacred rituals and blessings from elders. Both families could not hide their joy, especially Sumia's parents, who had always been proud of their son and were now even happier to see him find a worthy partner. The guests, from Sumia's friends in Bangalore to Rima's relatives back home, were full of praise for the couple's perfect match. After the ceremony, both Sumia and Rima immersed themselves in the festive atmosphere, shaking hands, taking pictures, and receiving wedding gifts from the guests. There was endless laughter and wishes filled with hope for a bright future together. Rima, though an introvert, could not hide her happiness as she felt the love and support from everyone around her. As for Sumia, his eyes were always on his wife, showing his pride and gratitude to have her by his side. After the wedding, the couple returned to their new home in Patnagar to begin their married life. The first few days were filled with joy and excitement. Sumia and Rima spent time decorating the house, preparing their first meals together and dreaming about their future plans. However, behind those seemingly perfect moments, a darkness was silently looming. Neither Sumia nor Rima could have imagined that in these first happy days, a terrible incident was waiting for them. On February 23, 2018, the atmosphere in the Saho household was filled with joy after the grand wedding of Sumia Sekar and Rima Rani. The young couple's new life began peacefully, with constant blessings from relatives and friends. Around 3:30 p.m. that day, a deliverman from a courier service knocked on the door of their house in Patnagar, carrying a gift parcel addressed to S.K. Sinha. Rukala, the family believed it was another wedding gift, sent by an acquaintance to congratulate the couple. Sumia took the parcel and curiously carried it into the kitchen, where his grandmother, Giamma, and Rima were preparing afternoon tea. The gift was carefully wrapped, looking like a normal present, with colorful wrapping paper and a small gold bow on top. The simplicity and elegance of the gift made no one suspect anything unusual. Sumia, with a smile on her face, excitedly opened the package, believing it could be a decoration or a surprise gift from a friend. However, as soon as the lid of the box was opened, a terrifying explosion rang out, shattering the quiet atmosphere of the house. The bomb, carefully disguised inside the gift package, exploded with tremendous force. The explosion instantly destroyed the kitchen, shook the entire house, and sent smoke and dust into the air. The explosion was so loud that people in the area heard it clearly from a distance and rushed to the Sahu family home to find out what had happened. The aftermath of the explosion was catastrophic. Sumia, who opened the package, and grandmother Giamma, who was standing nearby, died on the spot due to the tremendous force of the explosion and severe injuries. Their bodies were so badly damaged that they could not be immediately identified. Rima, who was standing not far away, was seriously injured. She suffered burns to 40% of her body, especially her hands, feet, and face. Rima's screams of pain echoed through the smoke and dust, but she was lucky to survive because she was standing a little further away from the epicenter of the explosion. The kitchen where the explosion occurred was completely destroyed. The walls were cracked, the windows were shattered, and pieces of furniture were scattered everywhere. The shock from the explosion spread throughout the residential area, causing panic among neighbors and passers-by. Initially, many people thought it was a gas explosion. As the kitchen showed signs of severe damage and billowing smoke, neighbors rushed to help, helping to evacuate the injured and put out the smoldering fire in the kitchen. Rima was pulled out of the house by her neighbors in a critical condition. Her skin was scorched in several places and she was almost unconscious from the pain. Neighbors immediately called an ambulance to take her to the nearest hospital. Sumia and her grandmother, though pulled out of the rubble, showed no signs of life. Their bodies, covered with sheets, lay on the dusty ground as onlookers looked on in shock. Later investigations revealed that Panjalal Meher was the mastermind. Panjalal, a respected former principal of Jyoti Vikas Junior College, was the unlikely mastermind behind the horrific crime against the Sahu family. A thorough police investigation revealed a savage plan fueled by jealousy and vengeance. He could not accept losing his principalship to Sanjukta Sahu, Sumia's mother, in 2017. This incident became a turning point for Panjalal, who had a good reputation, to become a vengeful and sinister person. Panjalal, who was a perfectionist, was proud of his position as principal. He always believed that he deserved the position more than anyone else, and that Sanjukta Sahu's appointment as his replacement was a personal insult. The feeling of being demoted not only hurt Panjalal's pride, but also made him feel slighted and powerless. His jealousy grew as he saw Sanjukta not only succeed as principal but also build a happy family and gain respect in the community. Panjalal became obsessed with the idea of revenge. Initially, he planned to damage Sanjukta's reputation by spreading false rumors, but this did not affect her reputation. When all attempts to bring down Sanjukta failed, Panjalal turned to a more ruthless plan to murder her in revenge. However, to avoid detection, he decided to choose the wedding of her son, Sumia, as the perfect opportunity to carry out his plot in secret. Panjalal spent months planning the crime in detail. Being a smart and knowledgeable person, he researched how to make homemade bombs through online documents and videos. He bought the necessary materials himself, from chemicals, wires to detonators, all from different places to avoid suspicion. Panjalal disguised the bomb as a wedding gift, a box carefully wrapped with colorful wrapping paper and decorative bows, making it look no different from any other gift sent to the Sahu family. In an effort to conceal his identity, Panjalal assumed the sender's name to be S.K. Sinha, Rakila, a name unrelated to the Sahu family but convincing enough to make them believe it was a gift from an acquaintance. He sent the package via courier to avoid direct suspicion. Panjalal believed that his plan was perfect and the bomb would explode during the wedding, causing great casualties but still covering up the real purpose of revenge. However, Panjalal's plan did not go as planned. The gift package was not opened at the wedding, but was opened by Sumia at home on February 23, 2018. The explosion not only took the lives of Sumia and his grandmother, but also seriously injured Rima and completely destroyed the family kitchen. The horror of the explosion shocked the community, but also prompted the police to start a comprehensive investigation. After the horrific explosion at the Sahu family's house, the police quickly arrived at the scene to conduct an investigation. The surrounding area was completely sealed off to protect the scene and avoid disturbing important evidence. The family's kitchen was completely destroyed, with clear traces showing that a powerful explosion had occurred. The kitchen was in pieces, with debris strewn everywhere, creating a scene of devastation. Initially, many thought it was a gas explosion, but investigators quickly noticed something unusual. Upon closer inspection, experts found that the explosion had left no signs of a gas leak. Instead, they found fragments of a homemade explosive device, including pieces of metal, wires, and burned chemicals. This evidence confirmed that the explosion was caused by a homemade bomb designed to detonate on impact. The gift package in which the bomb had been placed was also found to be severely damaged. However, the label of the package was still partially intact, indicating that it had been sent via Sky King Courier from Rourkela. The police quickly contacted Sky King Courier to find out more information. Through the records, they determined that the package had been sent from a small branch in Rourkela. However, the sender's information was S.K. Sinha, and the address on the package was clearly fake. The delivery staff at the branch could not remember the sender clearly because of the large number of customers coming to transact every day. This caused the initial investigation to become deadlocked. Rima, the only survivor of the explosion, was considered an important witness. In a state of both physical and mental pain, she recounted that the bomb exploded as soon as Sumia opened the gift package. She also confirmed that she did not notice anything unusual about the gift before the incident. During the process of collecting information, the police also discovered that Sumia had received a threatening call 8 months earlier, but upon checking, they determined that the caller was not related to the case. The case remained deadlocked for weeks, until April 2018, when a surprising turn of events occurred. The police received an anonymous letter sent to the police station, containing details of the case. The letter revealed information that only the perpetrator would know, including how the bomb was made and the intention to target the Sahu family. A phrase in the letter undertaking the project led Sanjukta Sahu, Sumia's mother, to suspect that Panjalamir, the former principal of Jayativika's junior college, might be behind the attack. Sanjukta knew that Panjalamir had been jealous of her family since he was removed as principal in 2017. Panjalamir had publicly expressed his anger at her appointment as his replacement, and his relationship with the Sahu family had never been good since. Based on Sanjukta's testimony, the police zeroed in on Panjalamir and found several irregularities. Records showed that Panjalamir had been to Rourkela shortly before the package was sent. The receipts from the hotel where he stayed, along with CCTV footage from the Sky King Courier branch, confirmed his presence in the area at the crucial time. When called in for questioning, Panjalamir initially denied any involvement, but as the evidence mounted, he began to show signs of anxiety and insecurity. After hours of questioning, Panjalamir finally confessed to His Highness' crime. He said he had spent months planning the crime, learning how to make bombs through online videos and procuring ingredients from various places to avoid suspicion. Panjalamir used chemicals from the school laboratory where he used to work to make the bomb. After assembling it, he sent a gift package from Rourkela hoping that the bomb would explode during the wedding, causing massive casualties and causing terrible pain to Sahu's family. Surprisingly, Panjalal even attended Sumia's wedding and funeral to avoid suspicion. He played the role of an innocent man, blending into the crowd, pretending to be saddened by the deaths of Sumia and his grandmother Jayama. Panjalal believed that his plan was perfect, but he did not foresee that small details such as his journey to Rourkela or the anonymous letter would lead the police to his whereabouts. After confessing, Panjalal was arrested and sent to jail to await trial. Panjalamir's trial took place in 2022 at the Odisha High Court, attracting a lot of public attention. The courtroom was packed with people, from Sahu's family, friends, to locals still in shock over the brutality of the case. Panjalamir faces serious charges including murder, causing grievous bodily harm, and illegal use of explosives. The prosecution opened the trial by laying out the chain of events that led to the crime and presented compelling evidence to convict Panjalal. Among them, his confession at the police station played a key role, providing details about how the bomb was made and how the package was sent from Rourkela. The prosecution went on to present Panjalal's itinerary, including hotel receipts, CCTV footage from the Sky King Courier branch, and his travel history, all of which matched the time the package was sent. In addition, evidence from the school laboratory where Panjalal worked was also presented. Experts confirmed that the chemicals stolen from the laboratory matched those found in the remains of the explosive device. Documents and notes seized from Panjalal's home also showed that he had spent months researching how to make a bomb through online videos. Panjalal's defense lawyer tried to argue that his client was mentally unstable due to work pressure and hurt feelings. However, the prosecutor rejected this argument, stressing that Panjalal's actions were completely deliberate, well-planned, and executed in cold blood. After several days of trial, the court delivered its final verdict. Panjalamir was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, a sentence considered appropriate for the horrific crime he had committed. Sahu's family, though still grieving, expressed satisfaction that justice had been served. The verdict also received public approval, bringing the Patnagar case, one of the most gruesome cases to ever occur in Odisha, to a close. The case is a profound warning about the consequences of jealousy and hatred, reminding people of the importance of stopping simmering conflicts before they become irreparable crimes. Story 4. Tiruvananthapuram, Kerala. April 2024. A mysterious case has shaken the peaceful community in India. Arya B. Nair, a French teacher who was about to get married, suddenly disappeared without a trace. After days of searching, the police discovered that she and her two close friends, a couple of Ayurvedic doctors, were dead in a hotel in Arunachal Pradesh. Arunachal Pradesh. The strange scene with mysterious objects and a suicide note has left the public wondering what really happened, and why did they make such a confusing final decision. Arya B. Nair, a French teacher in Tiruvananthapuram, was known to be energetic and cheerful. At 29, she was preparing for a big milestone in her life, her wedding. Arya's family and friends see her as a happy woman, with no signs of anything unusual or worrying. But behind her bright smile and busy wedding preparations, Arya's life is quietly changing when she begins to get to know Devi Thomas, a mysteriously attractive colleague. Devi Thomas, 32, is an Ayurvedic doctor and also teaches German at the same school as Arya. Unlike Arya, Devi has a closed lifestyle. She rarely interacts with her colleagues, often keeping her distance from everyone, but stands out thanks to her erudition and captivating way of speaking. Devi is described by many as intelligent but unapproachable, a woman with a mystery that no one can easily understand. This is what attracts Arya, who is curious and open-minded, and makes him want to learn more about Devi. The relationship between Arya and Devi begins with short conversations at school. At first, they only talked about teaching methods and the cultures they were teaching, but gradually, Devi led the conversation to more exotic topics. She shared with Arya the things she and her husband, Naveen Thomas, a researcher and paranormal enthusiast, were studying. Devi often told Arya stories of reincarnation, wandering souls and paranormal experiences that she believed had happened to her. At first, Arya found these stories interesting but not too serious. However, Devi, with her tactful communication and persuasive skills, gradually got Arya interested. She invited Arya to join the small discussions that she and Naveen held at their home. These meetings were small, with just a few individuals who shared a passion for the paranormal. Arya, initially hesitant, but with Devi's encouragement, attended. At these discussions, Arya meets Naveen Thomas, Devi's husband. Naveen is a calm, sharp-witted man who seems obsessed with finding the truth behind supernatural phenomena. He often presents his research and documents, talking about how the soul can survive after death, or how humans can be reincarnated into another life. Naveen's theories are always backed up by mystical stories, images, and evidence that he claims is undeniable. Devi and Naveen form a powerful pair, and Arya, drawn to their mystery and passion, begins to delve deeper into this world. Devi is no longer just a colleague, but now leads Arya into discussions that are increasingly far from reality. In Devi and Naveen's eyes, Arya is not only a new friend but also a puzzle piece that they believe can play an important role in their journey of studying the supernatural. Arya, drawn to Devi's strange stories and skillful persuasion, begins to change. Her family notices that she has become less talkative, sometimes appearing vague in conversations. When asked about these changes, Arya just smiles and says that she is busy with her teaching job. In fact, her time was increasingly dominated by meetings with Devi and Naveen. What had been a curious discussion turned into a practice where Arya was encouraged to participate in strange rituals related to souls and reincarnation. Some days Devi and Naveen would invite Arya to their quiet house, where the dim light from small lamps created a quiet atmosphere, ideal for hours of conversation. The conversations began on innocuous topics, philosophy of life, culture, or ancient beliefs. But gradually their content turned to more mystical aspects, such as reincarnation, the afterlife, and black magic. Devi, with her sharp wit and skillful speech, led Arya into complex, mysterious concepts. She talked about how souls could be reborn after death, not only in human form but sometimes in higher entities. Naveen, sitting quietly but authoritatively, added to the research he had collected, along with videos purportedly showing evidence of secret rituals in faraway lands. The three of them increasingly reflected their shared obsessions on the internet. Phrases like ritual sacrifice, soul journey, and gateway to the afterlife appeared frequently. Devi and Naveen were not only guides but also great inspirations for Arya, making her feel as if she were participating in a higher mission beyond her daily life. Those who knew Devi and Naveen described the couple as having long since lived in their own world. They withdrew from social relationships, barely communicating with friends or relatives. Their home became a secluded space where they spent much of their time studying occult literature and practicing spiritual rituals. As Arya becomes more involved, the already fragile lines between reality and fantasy become even more blurred. Devi and Naveen influence Arya not only with words but also with a strong presence, as if they are the spiritual guides Arya has been searching for. With Devi's influence growing, Arya gradually abandons her cheerful and family-oriented lifestyle. She becomes distant, mysterious, and obsessed with the concepts Devi and Naveen constantly emphasize. She begins to believe that the present world is only a small part of a larger truth, and that to achieve liberation, she must cross the boundary between life and death. The discussions between the three become more and more practical as they plan a grand ritual that they believe will open the gateway to the ultimate truth. Arunachal Pradesh, a land known for its spiritual beliefs and rituals, is chosen as the location for the ritual. For Devi and Naveen, this is a sacred place, a place where portals between worlds can be opened through ancient rituals. Together, they research remote villages in Arunachal Pradesh where locals still practice secret rituals. Devi says that the area has a special energy which she believes will help them perform the ritual with ultimate results. Naveen, who is behind the detailed planning, begins to arrange the itinerary, looking for the most suitable locations to hold the ritual. The plan is carefully laid out. Devi and Naveen convince Arya that she is not just a participant but an integral part of the ritual's success. They tell her that death is not the end but a gateway to rebirth in a higher state. Arya, with blind faith in the couple, accepts this without question. Devi, with her tact, repeatedly emphasized that this was not a sacrifice but a gift to attain spiritual liberation. Before the trip, they packed everything they needed from candles, spiritual symbols, and incense to sharp knives that Naveen said would be used to release the soul. They also made sure to keep their plans a secret so that no one would suspect anything. On March 27, 2024, Arya B. Nair, Devi Thomas, and Naveen Thomas began their fateful journey from Tiruvananthapuram to Atangar. Their flight landed in the afternoon and the three quickly took a taxi to a small hotel near the city center. They chose this hotel not for its luxury but because its quiet, uncrowded location suited their purpose. At the reception, the three appeared casual, showing no signs of tension or suspicion. They rented a single room, asked for an extra bed, and explained that they wanted to share a room to save money and facilitate communication during the trip. During the first few days, from March 28th to March 31st, the group of three spent time visiting famous sites in Zero Town, a land famous for its terraced fields and traditional Upatani culture. They booked a tour through the hotel and even hired a local guide to learn more about the religious rituals in the area. They behaved like normal tourists, chatting amicably with the hotel staff and driver, without showing any signs of abnormality. They took pictures together in the villages, participated in some traditional activities, and enjoyed local dishes. Those who met them commented that the three of them looked very friendly, especially Arya, who seemed the happiest. However, these outward actions were just a cover for a plan they had planned in detail in advance. When they returned to the hotel each evening, the three spent time in private discussions in their room, finalizing the final steps of the ritual they were about to perform. Devi and Naveen continued to reinforce Arya's belief that death was not an end, but a gateway to liberation and rebirth. Arya, in a state of complete conviction, did not realize that he was walking down a path with no way out. On April 1, 2024, unlike the previous days, the three did not leave their room all day. The housekeeping staff knocked on the door in the morning but received no response. Thinking that the guests might be resting, they ignored them and did not return to check. However, when the three did not appear at the hotel restaurant or request any services that evening, suspicions began to arise. Some of the front desk staff remembered that the three had left on time the previous days, but now their room was completely silent. However, to avoid invading the guests' privacy, the hotel manager decided to wait until the next morning to check. On April 2, 2024, the situation became more ominous when there was still no activity from their room all day. The hotel manager, unable to ignore it any longer, decided to use the spare key to open the door. When he entered, he and a staff member were shocked by the sight before them. Arya was lying on the bed, eyes closed, her wrists cut deeply, and blood had soaked into the sheets. She lay in a terrifyingly peaceful position, her arms stretched straight down by her sides. Under the bed, Devi Thomas was found hunched over, her body curled up as if trying to shrink into herself. There were also deep cuts on her wrists and blood was running down the floor, now dry. Naveen Thomas was found in the bathroom, sitting against the wall with a knife lying near his hand. His body was motionless, and the smell of blood and damp air filled the room. The hotel manager immediately backed away, feeling extremely scared. The staff who accompanied him was shaking so much that they could not stand, both of them trying to leave the scene as quickly as possible without touching anything. After escaping, the manager quickly called the police, trying to stay calm to briefly describe what he had just witnessed. Meanwhile, he ordered the staff to block off the area on the floor where the incident occurred, asking other guests not to approach the room. At the reception, tension began to spread. Some guests noticed the unusual atmosphere and began to ask questions. The manager only vaguely replied that there was an incident and they had called the police. As he waited for the authorities to arrive, he couldn't stop thinking about the days before, when the three had seemed perfectly normal. Images of Arya chatting happily when he first checked in, or Naveen's cold gaze as he signed the receipt, now haunted him. In a secluded corner of the hotel, a few staff members sat together, whispering about what they knew about the group. One staff member recalled that Arya seemed to lead the conversations, while Devi and Naveen often followed quietly. Another said that they had never seen the three of them show any signs of conflict or arguing, as is common in tour groups. Everything about them before the tragedy had seemed so perfect and normal, which made the incident all the more puzzling. As the police were on their way, no one in the hotel could have imagined that the story would be even more complicated and shocking than what they had just witnessed. About 20 minutes after receiving the call from the hotel manager, the local police team arrived at the scene. With the flashing lights of their patrol cars illuminating a corner of the hotel, they quickly sealed off the floor where the incident occurred, ensuring that no one but the investigators had access to the room. The forensic officers, summoned along with the investigation team, immediately set to work. Upon entering the room, the police team was overwhelmed by the suffocating atmosphere. The smell of blood permeated the air, mixed with the heavy silence that filled the space. The police began to take note of every little detail in the room. The bed where Arya had been lying with its white sheets now stained red was left intact. Under the bed where Devi's body was found, bloodstains made strange patterns on the floor, as if someone had deliberately arranged them. In the bathroom, Naveen's body sat against the wall, the knife lying near his hand, collected by forensic experts for fingerprint analysis. On a small table in the room, the police found a suicide note, signed by all three. The note, written in neat English, described their plans and the reasons for this extreme act. The content of the note asserted that they had performed the ritual voluntarily and were not under any financial, social, or personal pressure. Instead, they said it was the final step in their quest for spiritual liberation and the opening of a new door for their souls. Notably, the note stressed that they were fully conscious and aware of what they were doing, denying any coercion or mental instability. During the examination of the scene, the police discovered a series of strange items carefully arranged on the floor near the bed. These items included a small bag containing hair, a black bracelet made of an unidentified material, and artifacts that were later identified as tribal in Arunachal Pradesh. These objects appeared to be part of a ritual the three had performed before their deaths. A drawing in blood on the wall caught the attention of the investigation team. The drawing depicted a circular symbol with curved lines connecting in a complex network. This could be a symbol related to the beliefs or rituals they had studied. Forensic experts carefully photographed the scene, recording every detail for future investigation. The bodies were transferred to the autopsy room on the same day to determine the cause of death and clarify other related factors. The initial report from the forensic team indicated that all three had taken an anticoagulant before committing suicide. This explains why the bleeding was so profuse and rapid that none of them could have survived the wounds to their wrists. In addition, blood tests showed that none of the three had used stimulants or drugs. This is consistent with the content of their suicide notes, where they asserted that all actions were performed while sober. Another notable detail is that each of their wounds were made in the same location and at similar depths, suggesting that they had a clear agreement on how to perform the ritual. However, there is no evidence that any of them were coerced or physically affected by others. When examining the personal devices of all three, including laptops and mobile phones, the police discovered that their internet search histories were filled with content related to occult rituals, spirits, and reincarnation. They visited numerous dark websites that discussed supernatural rituals and provided instructions on how to perform death-related rituals. Some of the videos and documents they downloaded showed that they had been preparing for the ritual for months. They also searched for anticoagulants and ways to inflict self-inflicted wounds that would ensure a quick end to their lives without lasting pain. Friends and colleagues of Devi and Naveen, when interviewed, confirmed that the couple had long exhibited extreme tendencies in their beliefs. Devi frequently shared spiritual experiences that she believed were real, while Naveen was obsessed with the idea of reincarnation and the eternal soul. Arya, who initially showed no signs of anything unusual, was said to have been strongly influenced by Devi and Naveen. One of Arya's colleagues said that she had once said that Devi understood the human soul better than anyone else. The hotel is equipped with a CCTV system, which made it easy for the police to verify that no one entered or left their room during their stay, especially from April 1st, until the bodies were discovered. This eliminated the possibility of outsiders being involved in the incident. The cameras recorded that from the first day to the last day, the three people were always together, not leaving each other for even a moment. They did not interact much with the hotel staff or others, other than to order necessary services. Time analysis from the CCTV and room card data showed that their room door was last opened from the inside at around 8 p.m. on April 1st. After that, no activity was recorded until the hotel manager opened the door the next day. The police, after a thorough investigation, confirmed that there was no sign of a fourth person at the scene. From the physical evidence, the suicide note, to the CCTV footage and the autopsy results, everything points to a voluntary collective action, meticulously planned by Arya, Devi, and Naveen themselves. They shared a belief in an occult ritual, leading to the extreme decision to end their lives in a quiet hotel room in Itanagar. As news of the incident spread, Arya's family and the local community were shocked and heartbroken. Arya, known for his cheerful personality and life full of promise, ended his life in such an incomprehensible manner. For many, the real motive behind the incident remains a mystery, a mixture of false beliefs and the negative influence of Devi and Naveen. The case concludes with a stark warning: extreme and vague beliefs can lead to terrible consequences. Public opinion calls for greater attention to mental health and preventing dangerous ideologies from spreading in the community. Story 5. In 2023, in Ahmedabad, a lavish wedding between Dr. Leena Patel, a talented pediatrician, and Imam Rahim Khan, a renowned religious leader, attracted the attention of the entire community. However, on the wedding night, Leena discovered a shocking truth, setting off a chain of events that led to an international case involving false identities and financial fraud. Leena Patel, 31, was born into a middle-class family in Ahmedabad and was the pride of her family since she was a child. Her parents, though not wealthy, always tried their best to provide Leena with the best education. Since childhood, Leena showed intelligence and patience, especially her love for people around her. She often spent time helping friends and relatives, especially children in the neighborhood where she grew up. Her passion for medicine emerged when Lena witnessed a young neighbor of hers die of dengue fever due to lack of timely treatment. That heartbreaking story was engraved in her mind, urging her to pursue medicine to help vulnerable children. With determination, she passed the competitive medical entrance exam and studied at the University of Baroda, one of the most prestigious universities in Gujarat. During her time at school, Lena not only excelled in her academics but was also loved by her friends and teachers for her sociable and dedicated personality. She spent a lot of time volunteering at medical camps organized by the school, where she provided free medical examinations and to poor children and families in need. These experiences not only helped her hone her medical skills, but also reinforced her life's ideal to use knowledge to benefit the community. After graduating with honors, Lena decided to become a pediatrician, a natural choice given her special love for children. She was quickly accepted into a local hospital in Ahmedabad, where she became known not only for her professional skills but also for her compassion. Lena always tried to approach each child patient with care and understanding, not only treating their illnesses but also bringing spiritual comfort to them and their families. In 2022, Lena Patel's life took an unexpected turn when she met Rahim Khan through a match made by her family. Rahim, 35, appeared to be the perfect man with a dignified appearance, confident demeanor, and charismatic speaking ability. Rahim introduced himself as a native of Lucknow, a graduate of the prestigious Aligarh University who had spent years working for charities in Syria. Rahim's stories of helping war refugees and his strong religious beliefs quickly won Lena's family over. Lena was initially hesitant. Being an independent and career-oriented woman, she had never thought of an arranged marriage. However, with the urging of her parents and the approval of those around her, she decided to give Rahim a chance. During their first few meetings, Rahim impressed Lena with his deep understanding of the Quran and his inspirational interpretation of religious stories. Rahim also admired Lena's work as a doctor, often praising her dedication to children and the community. Not only did Rahim gain Lena's trust, he quickly built a respectable image in the eyes of the Muslim community in Ahmedabad. With his outstanding oratory skills, he was often invited to religious events to speak, explain, and inspire people. Rahim's reputation spread far and wide, leaving no one to suspect that this man was actually carrying a false identity. Rahim's real name is Arif Qureshi, an international conman with a dark past. Arif has traveled across multiple countries, using fake identities and fictitious stories to infiltrate charities and religious communities to steal assets. His story about working in Syria was actually a cover for a series of elaborate scams he had carried out under the guise of charity. When he met Lena, Arif realized that she was not only an intelligent woman but also a gateway to a source of wealth and fame that he could exploit. Under the guise of Rahim Khan, he continued to use his intelligence and eloquence to convince Lena's family that he was a trustworthy man. He promised to provide her with a happy, stable life and constantly emphasized their shared values of helping the community. The courtship passed quickly and gradually Lena was convinced by Rahim's image. The wedding was carefully planned and held in July 2023 at a large mosque in Ahmedabad. The ceremony was a grand affair with hundreds of guests in attendance, including many prominent figures in the community. Rahim proved to be a perfect fit for the role of an ideal husband, constantly showing his care and affection for Lena in front of everyone. Lena's family, who were initially a little worried about the marriage, now felt relieved that their daughter had found a good husband. Her friends and colleagues also congratulated the couple, praising Lena for finding the ideal partner in her charity work and life. However, on the wedding night, when it was supposed to be the happy start to their married life, Lena Patel discovered a truth about Rahim Khan, or rather Arif Qureshi. In a private moment, she realized that Rahim had no genitals, a condition that he had tried to hide. Shocked by this, Lena immediately confronted Rahim, demanding an explanation. Rahim, now unable to hide it any longer, confessed that he was born with a congenital defect and had lived his entire life in fear of being discriminated against. He admitted that the reason he kept it a secret was because he feared no one would accept him and that Lena was his only hope for a normal life. Rahim tried to justify himself, begging for forgiveness, But for Lena, it was an unforgivable betrayal. She felt betrayed, not only emotionally but also in the trust she had placed in him. Lena immediately asked for the marriage to be annulled, and the story quickly spread throughout the Muslim community in Ahmedabad. Those who had once hailed Rahim Khan as a moral and philanthropic figure now felt duped. The story became a hot topic, and it didn't stop there. When word reached the police, they began investigating Rahim Khan, especially his previous claims of having worked for charities in Syria and studying at Alaga University. Investigations quickly uncovered several irregularities in his story. First, there was no record of a student named Rahim Khan at Alaga University. Second, the charities he claimed to have worked for in Syria also had no record of him. These findings were just the beginning. As the police expanded their investigation, they discovered that Rahim Khan was in fact Arif Qureshi, an international conman with a history of similar crimes. He traveled across several countries, using false identities and religious stories to build trust and then steal assets from charities and individuals. Arif claimed to be an imam, a religious leader, but in reality he had no religious qualifications or certifications. The lectures and rhetoric he used to gain attention were a result of his ingenuity and persuasiveness. Further investigation revealed that Arif had defrauded hundreds of thousands of dollars from charities by forging documents and claiming that the money would be used to help refugees. However, most of the money was transferred to his personal accounts and used to maintain a lavish lifestyle, including luxury travel and hosting lavish events to bolster his false reputation. As the truth gradually emerged, the Muslim community in Ahmedabad was horrified. Those who had placed their trust in Rahim felt betrayed. Prominent figures in the community who had supported Rahim publicly criticized him. His reputation was completely destroyed, and doubts about his approach to Lena began to arise. Lena, meanwhile, was dealing with both personal trauma and being the center of gossip. However, she decided to cooperate with the police to help expose the truth. With the information she provided, the police were able to expand their investigation and connect Arif Qureshi's previous scams in various places. After their wedding night, Rahim Khan disappeared without a trace, leaving Lena Patel and her family in a state of confusion and bewilderment. The shock of what happened the night before had not yet subsided, and now they were faced with the mysterious disappearance of the man who had just married Lena. Lena's family's calls to Rahim's phone number were unanswered. The apartment he had used was also empty, with no sign of him ever being there. After many unsuccessful searches, Lena's family decided to report the incident to the police, officially starting a complex investigation. Detective Anjali Mehta, an experienced investigator, was assigned to the case. From the moment he was assigned the task, he sensed something unusual. Through the testimony of Lena and her family, he began to realize that Rahim Khan was not just a single conman but might be involved in a more complex criminal network. He began his investigation with the most basic information: Rahim's background, his past activities, and the relationships he had established in Ahmedabad. During her investigation, Anjali discovered that many of Rahim's documents were forged. His diploma from Aligarh University, where he claimed to have studied, did not exist on the university's records. Rahim's boastful credentials for his charity work in Syria were also found to be fake. When she spoke to people who knew Rahim, Anjali realized that he kept his distance, not letting anyone know too much about his personal life or past. One of the first breakthroughs in the investigation came from examining Rahim's finances. Anjali discovered that Rahim had withdrawn large sums of money from accounts linked to charitable foundations. These foundations were advertised as supporting refugees and poor children, but most of the money had never been used for that purpose. Instead, bank transactions showed that the money had been transferred to unknown accounts, then disappeared through cryptocurrency trading platforms. Anjali found that Rahim used cryptocurrency as a perfect tool to cover his tracks, making it extremely difficult to trace the money. As Anjali investigated, she discovered that Rahim was actually an international fraudster with a sophisticated network of operations. He used multiple identities to hide his whereabouts. In each country he traveled, Rahim built a new story, a new cover, from that of a respected religious leader to a dedicated humanitarian. Entry and exit records showed that he had traveled to at least 10 countries in the past 5 years, including the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Africa. In each place, Rahim established relationships with charitable or religious organizations, then exploited their trust to steal assets before disappearing. The investigation became more complicated when Anjali tried to trace Rahim through cryptocurrency transactions. While most of the transactions were conducted anonymously, a few small transactions he made on less secure exchanges left a trail. These transactions led Anjali to Dubai, where Rahim had opened a fake company to legitimize the money he had stolen. However, when the investigation team arrived in Dubai, Rahim had left just days before, forcing them to continue the search in other countries. Rahim's network did not stop at financial operations. He also had a team of people who helped him create fake documents, including identity papers, religious certificates, and educational records. This team helped him establish a new identity every time he moved to a new country. The members of the network operated very discreetly, making it a major challenge for the investigation team to track down the entire organization. Meanwhile, in Ahmedabad, the Muslim community began to split deeply when information about Rahim was exposed. Many who had supported and honored him felt betrayed, while others still refused to believe that a man who had inspired him could be a fraud. Charities that had worked with him also suffered a crisis of confidence, causing many community support projects to stall. Lena Patel, Rahim's newly wife, became a key witness in the case. Despite being severely traumatized, she decided to cooperate with the police, sharing everything she knew about Rahim to help the investigation progress. Lena recounted Rahim's unusual behavior, from his constant secrecy about personal documents to the way he convinced people with perfect stories but never had any concrete evidence. The efforts of Anjali Mehta and the investigation team finally brought the case to a crucial turning point. The clues about Rahim's finances, fake identities, and network of operations were all connected, painting a complete picture of a sophisticated international fraudster. However, catching him remained a major challenge, as Rahim kept changing locations and identities to avoid detection. The hunt for Rahim Khan, or rather Arif Qureshi, was carried out by the Indian police with close coordination with Interpol, becoming one of the most complex international manhunts of the time. After discovering suspicious financial transactions related to Rahim, the investigation force began to closely monitor his every move through the money flows he moved abroad. Rahim, who had prided himself on his ability to cover his tracks, had no idea that his complex financial network would become a clue that helped the police track his whereabouts. Through cryptocurrency transactions and information from international financial exchanges, police discovered that Rahim had traveled through many countries, mainly in the Middle East and Europe. In each location, he used a false identity and kept a low profile, avoiding contact with too many people. However, recent transactions showed that he was focusing his activities in Istanbul, Turkey, a large city with a large population, where he could easily hide in the crowd. As the investigation made significant progress, an unexpected event occurred. Lena Patel, Rahim's betrayed wife, received an email from him. In the email, Rahim sent a tearful apology, saying that he felt remorse for hurting her. He argued that his actions were motivated by fear of discrimination and loneliness. Rahim not only apologized but also offered to meet Lena in Istanbul to reconcile and explain the whole truth. Lena, deeply hurt, immediately reported the email to the police. Detective Anjali Mehta saw this as a rare opportunity to lure Rahim out. With the cooperation of Interpol, they decided to use Lena as bait in a secret arrest plan. Lena agreed to play a central role in this operation. She responded to Rahim's email in a gentle manner, showing that she was willing to listen and give him a chance to explain. Rahim, without any suspicion, immediately agreed to arrange a meeting at a famous coffee shop in Istanbul's bustling Taksim district. The plan was laid out in detail. Interpol, in coordination with the Turkish police, deployed a secret team, including plainclothes officers, hidden in the area around the coffee shop. Lena was brought to Istanbul under heavy guard, and her every move was closely monitored to ensure her safety. On the appointed day, Lena arrived at the coffee shop as scheduled. She was dressed casually, her face tense but calm enough to carry out her role. Meanwhile, secret police officers were ready at every angle, ensuring that Rahim had no chance of escape. Rahim showed up on time, still as elegant and confident as ever. He sat across from Lena, starting with an emotional apology. He talks about the pressures and hardships in life, justifying that what he does is to protect himself from society's judgment. However, those words did not work on Lena, who now knew his true colors. While Rahim was engrossed in his words, the police officers silently approached. A signal was given, and immediately the team quickly arrested Rahim. He did not have time to react to the sudden appearance of the police force. Handcuffed on the spot, Rahim still tried to say that it was a misunderstanding, but the people present in the cafe only looked at him with shock and anger. After his arrest, Rahim was taken to a detention facility in Istanbul for interrogation. Throughout this process, he continued to deny all accusations and tried to justify his actions. However, with a series of evidence collected, from financial transactions, forged documents, to the testimony of the victims, Rahim could not escape the truth. Not long after, Rahim was extradited to India to face formal charges. His return flight took place under tight security, with international police officers watching. When he landed at Mumbai airport, he was no longer Rahim Khan, the revered religious leader, but Arif Qureshi, an exposed fraud. News of Rahim's arrest spread across India and internationally, making headlines in the media. The public was shocked by his sophistication and audacity and expressed sympathy for the victims, especially Lena Patel. Lena's family, heartbroken by what their daughter had gone through, were relieved to know that the perpetrator of all this suffering had been brought to justice. Rahim was held in a high-security prison in Ahmedabad, where he awaited trial. In January 2024, Rahim Khan's trial began in an Ahmedabad court amid intense media and public attention. It was not just a trial but a symbol of justice being served after Rahim had spent years defrauding and causing suffering to countless people under false identities. In the crowded courtroom, the prosecutor laid out a series of charges against Rahim. He was charged with identity theft, financial fraud, and breach of trust. Evidence presented included forged documents he used to project an image of a respected religious leader. Financial transactions showed he had embezzled hundreds of thousands of dollars from charities, transferring money through cryptocurrency platforms to cover his tracks. Witnesses from several countries, including Lena Patel and members of several charities, gave testimony that revealed the truth behind his actions. Rahim, who remained calm, tried to deny the charges and argued that he was simply a victim of a complex financial system. However, those defenses could not stand up to the overwhelming evidence presented by the prosecutor. Testimonies from the victims painted a clear picture of a sophisticated fraudster who exploited people's trust and admiration for his own personal gain. After several days of trial, the court delivered its final verdict. Rahim Khan, also known as Arif Qureshi, was sentenced to 20 years in prison without the possibility of parole. When the verdict was read, Rahim lost his usual confidence. He bowed his head in silence, knowing that his days of freedom were over. The trial has ended, but the impact of Rahim's actions will continue to resonate with his victims and the wider community. It is a stark reminder of the dangers of fraudsters who can manipulate people's trust and underscores the importance of ensuring justice is done to protect vulnerable people. Story 6. Have you ever considered that the staircase you climb every day could become the stage for not one, but two chilling murders? Much like the infamous mystery of the staircase case that gripped America, today we journey to Japan to unravel a similarly enigmatic and captivating case. The case of Park Young-hyun, a seemingly upright man accused of murdering his wife, has become a family tragedy that sent shockwaves through Japan and South Korea. The sudden death of his wife, Kanako, in 2016 sparked a legal and emotional maelstrom as details of their family life, love, and the secrets lurking behind their perfect facade slowly came to light. This story is not merely a criminal case. It is a heart-rending struggle between truth and the shadows of the past. Ambiguous evidence, scathing accusations, and innocent children forced to witness their family's collapse make this tale all the more haunting. Was Park Young-hyun truly the perpetrator or a victim of a devastating misunderstanding? This case stands as a testament to the power of fate and how the truth can alter the course of a life forever. In the heart of dazzling Tokyo, a bustling metropolis that never sleeps, there remain pockets of timeless charm. Old homes and quiet streets that carry the weight of history. In Sendaji, a serene enclave in Bunkyo Ward, time seems to slow, detached from the city's frenetic pulse. Here, a 3-story home housed a couple and their 4 lively children. The husband, Park Young-hyun, worked at Kodensha, a prestigious publishing house renowned for leading manga magazines like Morning and Weekly Shonen Magazine. He played a key role in the success of works such as Gokusen, The 7 Deadly Sins, Attack on Titan, and A Silent Voice, earning a solid reputation in the industry. As deputy editor-in-chief of Morning, the weight of his responsibilities bore heavily on his shoulders, leading to sleepless nights and physical exhaustion. That night seemed like any other quiet evening, yet a series of strange text messages from his wife planted a seed of unease in Park's heart. A frantic phone call confirmed his worst fears, prompting him to rush home from work. At around 1 a.m., he pushed open the front door to find his wife sitting silently in the living room. Little did he know that moment would mark the beginning of a haunting family tragedy. In the early hours of August 9, 2016, at 2:45 a.m., an urgent phone call shattered the stillness of Bunkyo Ward. Park Young-hyun, his voice trembling, dialed emergency services, reporting that his wife had fallen down the stairs and lay motionless on the floor. An ambulance arrived swiftly, but it was too late. Kanako, his wife, was found near the front door, lifeless. Despite being rushed to the hospital, she could not be saved. Her unnatural death immediately drew police attention, and a thorough investigation was launched. Kanako, 38, 3 years younger than her husband, had lost her mother as a child and was raised by her father in Gunma Prefecture. After moving for university, she and Park fell in love over 7 years before tying the knot. After marriage, she devoted herself entirely to their family and 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, the youngest just 10 months old. Their 2-story home featured a master bedroom, a spacious living room, and a bathroom on the first floor, where the youngest son slept with his parents. The 3 older children had their own rooms on the second floor, connected to the first by a staircase near the entrance. In his initial statement, Park insisted his wife had accidentally slipped and fallen down the stairs near the entrance. However, details from the crime scene raised doubts about this accident narrative. The forensic report revealed critical evidence. Park's skin cells were found under Kanako's fingernails, and his arms bore clear scratch marks, signs of a struggle. A distinctive wound on Kanako's left forehead, shaped like a double dash, one mark 3 centimeters, the other 2 centimeters, coupled with the conclusion that her cause of death was asphyxiation by strangulation, deepened the case's complexity. As police prepared to dig deeper, a surprising turn unfolded. The next morning, Park voluntarily visited the station and completely changed his story. This time, he claimed his wife had taken her own life, and his earlier lie was meant to shield their young children from the painful truth. According to Park's revised account, the tragedy stemmed from Kanako's overwhelming burden of raising 4 children alone. Dozens of desperate text messages she sent him that day were cries for help from the depths of her soul, as if she teetered on the edge of collapse. Alarmed, Park hurriedly wrapped up his work and raced home. By the time he arrived, it was past 1 a.m. The children were fast asleep, leaving Kanako alone in the living room, enveloped by darkness and despair. The sight of his wife was haunting, her vacant expression, head bowed, muttering incoherent words, clutching a cold kitchen knife. When she saw him, Kanako looked up, her eyes icy, her voice hollow. "You're back." Before he could respond, she lost control, lunging at him with the knife. A fierce struggle ensued, neither yielding. In the chaos, Kanako suddenly froze, stepping back with a vacant, despairing gaze. She spoke of wanting to end her life and take the children with her. Stunned, Park barely registered her words before she grabbed the knife and rushed toward the first-floor bedroom, where their 10-month-old son slept. In a split-second decision, Park lunged after her, pinning her to the mattress to stop her reckless act. After a desperate struggle, Kanako seemed to give up, going limp. Not taking any chances, Park scooped up their infant son and ran to the second floor, locking himself in the older children's room. He heard Kanako's footsteps climbing the stairs, followed by her attempts to turn the doorknob and the chilling sound of the knife striking the wooden door. Park held the door shut with all his strength, barring her entry. Then, an eerie silence fell. He waited, too afraid to open the door. Minutes later, a loud thud echoed from outside, followed by stillness. Gently setting his son down, Park cautiously opened the door. The scene downstairs broke his heart. Kanako sat motionless at the foot of the stairs, the jacket he'd given her for her birthday loosely tied to the handrail, a painful image hinting at a brutal truth. Park rushed down, untied the jacket, and realized his wife was gone forever. The earlier thud had woken the children, who stumbled downstairs, rubbing their eyes and asking questions. Before their innocent gazes, Park choked back his grief, lying through his pain. Mom fell down the stairs. She's going to the hospital. He called emergency services in front of them, a lie woven with boundless love. The jacket, his birthday gift to his beloved wife, tore at his soul. Following Park's statement, the police intensified their investigation, quickly uncovering inconsistencies. A critical detail raised red flags. No trace of Kanako's DNA was found on the jacket, an implausible absence if she had used it to end her life. Similarly, the handrail bore no fibers matching the jacket's material. Logically, if Park's account were true, the jacket should have carried Kanako's skin cells and its fibers should have clung to the handrail. When confronted with this evidence, Park's explanation, that the children might have inadvertently wiped away traces while running around the stairs after waking, lacked credibility, especially given the absence of DNA on the jacket. These irreconcilable contradictions fueled police suspicion. Was the truth behind Kanako's death being concealed? Park Jong-hyun, then 41, was a Korean-born man living in Japan. Born in Osaka to a wealthy family that owned a successful chain of restaurants, hotels, and pachinko parlors, his childhood was marred by his father's sudden death. As the eldest son, Park shouldered family responsibilities early while excelling academically. Despite failing his first university entrance exam, he persevered, gaining admission to Kyoto University, one of Japan's top institutions to study law. Kyoto University, often called the cradle of scientists, has produced 19 Nobel laureates. Its law faculty, alongside that of the University of Tokyo, is a pillar of Japanese legal education. Yet, despite his robust legal background, Park took an unexpected path after graduation, pursuing his passion for creativity and manga editing. In 1999, Park joined Kodansha, a leading publisher based in Tokyo's Bunkyo ward. For convenience, he settled in Sandaji, just 3 kilometers from the company. A year into his editing career, at age 25, he met Kanako through a mutual acquaintance. After 7 years of romance, they married and welcomed 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, building a dreamlike family. To colleagues, they were the epitome of a happy family, marked by love and understanding, free of visible conflicts. Park was admired as an ideal husband, taking paternity leave to care for his children, a rarity at Kodansha, and sharing parenting challenges with Kanako. He openly shared joyful fatherhood moments on social media, his words brimming with pride. However, this outward perfection began to erode a year before the tragedy. In June 2013, Park's career soared with his appointment as Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Morning. This promotion demanded more time and energy, often keeping him at work until late. 6 months later, their youngest child was born. The burden of raising 4 children, especially during the chaotic summer holidays, fell heavily on Kanako. Managing everything alone drained her physically and mentally, and she frequently confided in Park about her mounting stress and sadness. According to Park, Kanako's mental collapse was the catalyst for the tragedy. Yet, a meticulous investigation of the home revealed glaring inconsistencies between his account and the evidence. On the first-floor bedroom mattress, police found traces of urinary incontinence, a physiological response often linked to asphyxiation. Blood and saliva were also present, which forensic experts suggested were signs of Kanako's final moments, indicating she likely died of strangulation in the bedroom. However, Park insisted she had gone upstairs and died at the foot of the stairs, where no such traces were found. Some experts noted that urinary incontinence could result from unconsciousness during strangulation, not necessarily death, and the blood in Kanako's nose might have simply mixed with saliva. The defense posited that Kanako briefly lost consciousness on the first floor, then regained it, ascended to the second floor to confront Park Young-hyun, pounded on the children's door with a knife, and ultimately ended her life in despair. However, the distinctive double-dash wound on Kanako's forehead raised a critical question. The laceration, caused by a forceful impact, showed only trace amounts of blood, suggesting her circulation was severely compromised at the time of injury, possibly moments before her heart stopped. At the scene, 15 bloodstains, likely from the forehead wound, were found, 2 in the bedroom, 3 in the bathroom, and 10 near the staircase. Park Young-hyun claimed the injury occurred during their struggle, but police noted the blood volume was suspiciously low. Moreover, if Kanako had moved after sustaining the injury, blood should have been found along the staircase, yet none was present. Forensic experts concluded the double-dash wound occurred near the end of her life, when blood flow was minimal. Police suspected the body had been moved with the staircase bloodstains staged to mislead investigators. They also found a cloth and gloves nearby, believed to have been used to wipe away blood. Authorities grew convinced Park Young-hyun had orchestrated a false scene of an accidental fall. Despite these suspicions, Park insisted Kanako sustained the injury in the bedroom and moved afterward, with the blood resulting from her actions. He argued that blood volume assessments were theoretical and inconclusive. However, 12 knife marks on the second-floor children's door appeared to support his claim of Kanako's attempt to break in. Still, the possibility of Park staging the scene remained a theory investigators couldn't dismiss. Given its contentious nature, the forehead wound was not used as pivotal evidence by either prosecution or defense in court. The investigation clarified some truths while highlighting deep disagreements. It was established that in the early hours of the incident, Park Young-hyun and his wife had argued. He had restrained her, pinning her to the first-floor bedroom mattress, and evidence suggested his strangulation caused her to lose consciousness. From that point, however, Park's account and police findings diverged sharply. Park claimed Kanako regained consciousness in a volatile mental state, grabbed a knife, went upstairs, attacked the children's door, and ultimately took her life at the foot of the stairs. Conversely, police, based on collected evidence, concluded Kanako died of asphyxiation in the bedroom, after which Park moved her body to the second floor and pushed it down the stairs to stage an accident. The forehead wound, they argued, resulted from the fall. He then attempted to erase blood traces and called emergency services to mislead authorities and hospital staff into believing it was an accident. However, swift police intervention exposed the truth. The autopsy confirmed asphyxiation as the cause of death, forcing Park to abandon his initial story and craft a narrative about his wife's loss of control. This tragedy left profound scars on their 4 children, who were temporarily removed from the family and placed in a care facility until late 2016, when their grandmother gained custody. Media reports described Park Young-hyun's overwhelming grief, kissing his wife's forehead and sobbing, vowing to raise their children with strength. Yet, days later, during the new year, he was quietly arrested without handcuffs for humanitarian reasons. Since then, the children have grown up without their father, under their grandmother's care. The once joyful home, filled with laughter, now stands silent and somber after this grave tragedy. The case's complexity and perplexing details demanded extensive preparation from both prosecution and defense for the trial. In February 2019, 3 years after the tragedy, the initial trial commenced at Tokyo's district court. Park Young-hyun faced murder charges. The courtroom saw fierce debates between prosecutors and defense attorneys. Prosecutors firmly argued Park killed his wife in the bedroom, then staged the staircase scene to fake an accident. Citing the urinary incontinence on the mattress and the blood-saliva mixture as evidence of asphyxiation, the defense countered vigorously, pointing to the 12 knife marks on the children's door and a dust-free patch on the door, suggesting someone had leaned against it to bolster Park's account. As Park and Kaneko's children were minors, their testimonies were not admissible in court. After a month-long trial in March 2019, Park Young-hyun was found guilty and sentenced to 11 years in prison. Reacting to the verdict, Park displayed intense emotion, protesting in court and vowing to appeal. A year later, hope flickered with an appeal hearing at Tokyo's High Court. The defense introduced 13 minor traces found on the first floor and near the staircase to refute claims Kaneko couldn't move after her injury. Prosecutors, however, countered with a crucial piece of evidence: the complete absence of blood-wiping traces on Kaneko's hands, face, or clothing. After 6 months of review, the High Court upheld the original verdict. Park Young-hyun was sentenced to 11 years for murder. Hearing the final ruling, Park couldn't contain his emotions, shouting in court, "This is absurd! I'm innocent!" Notably, Kodansha, Park's employer, did not terminate him even after the appeal verdict, granting him extended leave instead. Park later resigned voluntarily to avoid tarnishing the company's reputation. Throughout the trial, a previously underexplored factor emerged: the possibility that Kaneko suffered from severe postpartum depression. At the time of the tragedy, her mental state may have been critically fragile. This added complexity to an already contentious case. Reports revealed that after the births of their third and fourth children, Kaneko exhibited clear signs of postpartum depression. Tragically, she shared her mental struggles with no one. Even Park only recognized these signs during the trial. He recalled that in the summer before the tragedy, Kaneko called him almost weekly, her voice laced with panic and despair, saying, "I feel overwhelmed with worries, but I don't know where to start." Her mental state deteriorated further, with moments of unexplained anger toward the children, including throwing their homework. One night, she cried uncontrollably. Park recalled offering brief comfort, unaware of the severity of her pain. Later, her condition worsened, with disturbing thoughts emerging. Kaneko once told Park she felt watched while picking up the children from kindergarten. He suggested seeing a psychiatrist, but she reacted angrily, denying any mental issues, and the matter was dropped. In hindsight, they missed a critical opportunity for her treatment. Another heartbreaking detail surfaced. In the year of the incident, the couple learned one of their children had a mild congenital disability. On the day of the tragedy, Kaneko took the child for a hospital checkup, where doctors suggested the condition might be linked to childbirth. Medical records showed Kaneko felt immense guilt, blaming herself for her child's suffering. This explains the 15 desperate text messages she sent Park that day, with heart-rending lines like, "I'm always struggling to breathe. I'm exhausted every day. My body has no strength left, and my tears keep flowing." Each word revealed the torment and despair consuming her. To counter public speculation, Park publicly stated he avoided focusing on Kaneko's postpartum depression during the trial, not wanting their children to believe their mother's death was connected to them. This portrayed him as a devoted husband and father. But was the picture of their marriage as Park described entirely true? A friend of Kaneko told investigators that, before her death, Kaneko frequently complained about Park's lack of involvement in childcare, and even accused him of domestic violence. When reporters asked, "Did you ever abuse your wife?" Park evaded, saying, "I can't disclose that," and insisted, "The truth will eventually come to light." Another key detail emerged. On the night of the incident, Kaneko had a tense phone call expressing frustration with Park's mother. This fueled speculation that, when Park returned home, he confronted Kaneko about the call, sparking a heated argument that, in a moment of rage, led to an unintended tragedy. Despite this, Kaneko's father steadfastly believed in Park's innocence. Many of Park's colleagues and friends also supported him, actively aiding his legal battle. His deep bond with his children was evident, as they longed for their father's return from prison. In the lonely confines of his cell, Park found solace in a letter from his eldest daughter. Beyond recounting her daily life, the letter brimmed with longing for her father, including a request for his photo. Touchingly, she shared her newfound love for manga, inspired by the works he edited, and noted her drawing skills had improved. At the bottom of the page was a charming, childlike cartoon sketch, capable of melting any heart. Amid the long wait for a final verdict, Park Jong-hyun agreed to share his thoughts with the media in a prison interview. He reaffirmed his innocence in his wife's death, but did not shy away from acknowledging his shortcomings. His failure to share the burden of childcare had left Kaneko overwhelmed, leading to an unthinkable tragedy. When speaking of Kaneko, his late wife, Park's voice softened, heavy with regret. He remembered her as a beautiful, graceful woman, a steadfast pillar who listened patiently and offered wise counsel whenever work challenges weighed him down. Simple memories, like the family gathered to make takoyaki, remained his happiest moments. Throughout the conversation, Park choked up several times, his words a whispered lament to the wife he lost. They had once dreamed of a quiet retirement, even planning a trip to the mystical lands of Egypt. He still couldn't fathom that Kaneko was gone forever, leaving him and their children behind. With a voice laced with pained reproach, he wondered how she could abandon him and their kids. Yet, he turned that blame inward, tormenting himself for failing to give her a better life. Above all, the image of their 4 young children pierced his heart most deeply. Through their innocent letters, he learned they had drawn lots to pray for him, each small slip of paper carrying their simple faith. The one waiting will return. Their childlike belief that this was a sign of his imminent return brought tears to his eyes. At the interview's close, Park expressed profound concern for his children's future and a fervent hope to clear his name in the upcoming trial, longing to hold them again. His sincerity and heartfelt words resonated deeply, stirring sympathy and strong public support. In May 2021, an astonishing development unfolded. Kaneko's father sent a petition to Japan's Supreme Court. In it, he expressed unwavering faith in Park Jong-hyun's character, insisting his son-in-law could not have taken his daughter's life. He wrote that if Park were ultimately convicted, Kaneko's soul would find no peace. A year later, in November 2022, under intense public scrutiny, the Supreme Court held a hearing. Notably, at this final stage, the Supreme Court typically does not reinvestigate facts or allow debates over the case's truth, focusing solely on procedural errors in prior trials. The hearing was partially open to the public, and from early morning, a long line formed outside the courthouse. Though only 39 seats were allocated, over 160 people waited, a fierce competition reflecting society's deep fascination with this contentious case. Park's mother and his eldest daughter were among the early arrivals in the audience. When the tragedy occurred, the girl was just an elementary schooler. Now she was a junior high student. She steadfastly believed in her father's innocence. Before the initial trial, she meticulously completed a puzzle of the 7 deadly sins, a manga her father had worked on, and hung it proudly in her room, intending to gift it to him as a surprise when he was freed. After thorough review, the Supreme Court delivered a stunning ruling. It ordered the High Court to retry the case. While agreeing with the appellate court's dismissal of Kanako's suicide, based on the absence of wiping traces on her hands and face, the Supreme Court found the prior trial failed to fully address the facial wounds, and denied both prosecution and defense adequate opportunity to argue their significance. With unanimous agreement, the justices determined the appellate ruling raised serious doubts about the determination of facts, remanding the case to Tokyo's High Court for retrial. This historic decision sent shockwaves through Japan's legal community, carrying immense weight. The case was tried under the Saiban and Seto system, where randomly selected citizens joined professional judges to determine facts and sentencing used only for Japan's most serious criminal cases. The Supreme Court's rare decision to overturn a guilty verdict, despite 2 prior courts convicting Park, set an extraordinary precedent. It reignited hope for Park and his supporters, who saw it as a sign that the upcoming trial could finally reveal the truth and clear his name. In October 2023, the contentious case returned to Tokyo's High Court for a year-long retrial. By July 2024, the retrial concluded. To the dismay of Park's supporters, neither prosecution nor defense presented new evidence. Recycling old arguments about Kanako's cause of death, the verdict was announced. The High Court upheld Park Jong-hyun's conviction, sentencing him to 11 years in prison, unchanged from the prior ruling. Despite the Supreme Court's concerns about the facial wounds, the High Court deemed other evidence, like the mattress traces and jacket fiber analysis, sufficient to confirm his guilt. Park, who had pinned great hopes on this trial's fairness, and even packed his bags to reunite with his children, was devastated. His emotions erupted. He shouted in protest, unleashing angry words that nearly disrupted the proceedings. His 4 children, who believed their father would return that day, wept uncontrollably in court as their hopes crumbled. Though the retrial's outcome was a crushing blow to Park and his supporters, his defense team vowed to appeal to the Supreme Court, clinging to a final shred of hope. Despite being the 3rd trial, it was still considered an appellate trial, granting Park the right to appeal to the highest court. Fate, however, was unyielding. On March 1, 2025, the Supreme Court rejected Park's final appeal, upholding the High Court's ruling. His nearly decade-long legal battle reached its end. Park Yung-hyun accepted his 11-year sentence. After nearly 8 years in pretrial detention, he faced just over 3 more years behind bars. Though the verdict was final, the staircase murder case continues to spark heated debate. The departed cannot return, and those left behind, forever altered by this tragedy, struggle to move forward, each bearing their own scars. The youngest son, just 10 months old at the time of the tragedy, is now school-aged. Park's aging mother, despite frail health, tirelessly raises her 4 grandchildren. The once lively home now sits in somber silence. Kanako's father, the children's grandfather, visits regularly. The first-floor master bedroom has become a memorial, with a small altar for Kanako. On her birthday and death anniversary, the children pool their pocket money to buy fresh flowers for her shrine. Behind cold prison walls, Park Yung-hyun writes faithfully to his children. In his letters, he asks about the smallest details of their lives, shares stories like a friend, and patiently imparts life lessons, striving to fulfill his sacred role as a father, even in the harshest circumstances. The Park Yung-hyun case exemplifies the complexity of justice, where the line between truth and speculation is painfully thin. From a family tragedy, it became a focal point of Japanese society, not only for its heartbreak, but also for its nearly decade-long legal disputes. This is not merely a quest for justice, but a tragedy woven with loss, doubt, and faith. It serves as a stark reminder that in cases lacking clear truth, justice, if it exists, lies not only in the final verdict, but in how we view and treat those involved. The Park Yung-hyun case concluded with an 11-year sentence, yet it left countless unanswered questions, fueling ongoing debate and unease in Japan and among those invested in justice. As the rain falls and the night deepens, thank you for being here with me at Radio Night Crime. True crime stories remind us of life's mysteries and the need to stay aware, even in the stillness of the night. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let the sound of the rain lull you to sleep, and until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and let the night keep you company.